Oh, hey, what's up, man?
What's going on?
Nothing much here. I think we're doing a show right now. I think that's what's going
okay.
on. Yeah, it's
Cool.
weird.
Nice.
So we're doing, this is Quasar with Fries. Welcome everybody. This is episode 6. My name is Rich.
I'm Wayne.
That's Wayne right there.
I like to interrupt Rich before he's done talking, introducing himself with mine.
That's good because honestly, sometimes I'll just forget what planet I'm on mid-sentence, and so it's a good thing.
I couldn't be weird. Like 6 episodes in, you would have thought that we could figure out how to do the let's just introduce ourselves thing, and every episode it has been an absolute car crash.
I know it's like the awkward pauses and bad acting in horrible movies, where they're like,
we've tried handing it off. We've tried literally every trick you could possibly do to do like a smooth kind of like, hey, this is Quasar with Fries. I'm Rich. And then we will never get it. And I think we should just embrace like how bad it is. It's going to be a charming aspect of the show.
I need to tee up like a little audio clip of crickets. So right after I say something, I'll just punch that in until you talk, basically. Just let's make it as awkward as possible, for everybody.
100%. It's best.
So, let's see. We haven't really teed up a lot on the AI front, which frankly is freaking fine with me because I am almost AI'd out for the week.
We've hit a little bit of a lull, I think, news-wise. I mean, I don't know if it was just like a bunch of people were like super nervous with like Nvidia's earnings were like near the end of August, and so like I don't know if it was a bunch of people. There was just a ton of news and a ton of things coming out, and they made a lot of money, and the market was still like, that's not enough money. I want more money.
Yeah.
And so then the stock went down, and then people were like, Actually, that is a lot of money. Like, they're going to double their revenue this year. And so then the stock went back up. And so now everything's fine again. And so you're not hearing anything about AI for a little while.
Yeah, it's crazy. There was that one video of, I think it was that I shared in our chat internally here. I think it was Facebook. It was Meta. And they were using AI to basically change your face.
Oh,
or something like that. I need to. I'll pull that up later. At some
face
point.
Face swap.
Yeah, but it was legit. Like the person reached up, pulled on their like cheek,
and it stuck.
And it did the same thing with the AI face too. And you're like, whoa, like this. And they had a frame of who they look like in the main screen, which is who you became, basically. And then in the upper window, they had like who you actually are, what you look like. So it was like taking Second Life to a whole different level in like a Zoom meeting format or a podcast format. It was super trippy, dude.
We're all just okay with this. We're all totally fine with where this is going.
I mean, this whole thing is just like a figment of our imagination, this reality we're living in right now, right? I mean, we're all energy, bro.
Everything is transferable.
Yeah.
Everything is fungible. Our tokens, our faces, all of it. Everything is just, bits and bobs, and who cares, man?
I can't wait to swimming around in like a digital world like that movie Lawnmower Man, where there's like crappy like virtual reality spheres and cubes and circuitry everywhere, Yeah,
Zuckerberg saw Avatar and was like, okay,
I'm there.
Like, why not?
We're doing this.
Why not?
Yep.
Let's just do that. How about we just do that? How about we just assume like mechanized versions that attain things that we can only dream of today. I don't know what I'm saying anymore. I've completely lost track of what we're talking about or the thought. I apologize.
You should do just drink more coffee and keep talking. That's like the best way to handle it usually.
100%.
Well, moving on to some of the tech stuff out there. Today stumbled on this rad Kickstarter, which was basically not that guy. Woo!
I was like, I did not send this to you. What the hell is this?
This that is freaking hilarious. Oh, you know what? Because before the show, I was trying to
Oh
get
yeah,
on.
we'll get to this. This is
We'll,
one of the we will talk about this.
we're gonna get
Okay.
to this magical device you see on your screen shortly. So
Something out of the movie Predator.
yeah, exactly. So anyhow, this thing is called the Supercage. It's on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
It's now that we have the mobile filmmaking thing has been up leveled quite a bit now that we have the iPhone 15 and beyond with the
Mm,
USB-C connector. A lot of people are like, "Cool, I want to be able to take advantage of being able to like shoot way high res photos, shoot in log, dump it to hard drives instead." But now you got these now you have all these devices that can be up leveled in terms of like your camera rig. If you're using your iPhone to shoot stuff, we got some really amazing lenses now. We got monitors. People can record straight to hard drive. So how do you bring all that together into something that actually makes sense, is easy to manage, but still end up optimizing for the quality of shooting with your iPhone? So this thing is pretty amazing. The rack itself, or the cage itself, has like an integrated USB-C hub, which is pretty fascinating.
right.
It's got expandable power, an open rail system, so that you can just go crazy with configuration, adding on new pieces and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Um, but here's a more detailed example. We'll see if I can
Yeah.
zoom in here a little bit.
And this is made by Moment. I mean, and so it looks like, I mean, like all the product shots of it, it's called Supercage, and they're doing it on Kickstarter. So
Yeah,
it's definitely kind of like a concept that they're hoping to get the crowdfunding behind. It looks like they've already reached the goal. I think the goal was only like 25,000, which was probably just to be like
yeah,
prove to us that people would buy this. And so, I mean, you see a lot. So like you said, with the 15 Pro and the 15 Pro Max that launched last year, you've just started to see Apple shared a little bit more about like how it was filming its events with the iPhone.
yeah,
You've seen certain directors kind of use the iPhone, for years now, kind of use it, see what it could do, and then I think the most recent thing, Apple had The Weeknd, his new music video was shot with an iPhone, and so like what you've seen is kind of like slowly like people have started to share, here's how we're doing that with the iPhone. And typically that means it's not someone holding an iPhone in their hands.
right,
These things are geared up, like they're put inside of a cage and they're paired with like some incredible lighting. And look, that's not a I think a lot of people look at that and go, yeah, well, if you've got like $3,000 to spend on lighting and, hard drives and, all this other stuff, then sure, I guess you could shoot it with an iPhone. It's like, right. But at the end of the day, the sensor inside of the phone and the lens itself have to be capable of taking, quality video that can be paired in the first place with a good lighting setup
right.
and the stabilization and the expandability and modularity to do all of this. And so it's still, whatever you think, putting the iPhone in a cage, if you think that's a dunk on the iPhone, I mean, I have news for you, because, every camera and most of them that are being used on professional shoots and they're not, you can't be had for $999. I
Right.
mean, that's the thing. The video that is coming out of the latest iPhones is on par. There's only so much physics can do in terms of like when you have a lens that's like, a thumbnail in thickness versus like, an actual lens like the one that both Rich and I are here using on our Sony and Panasonic cameras. But like for the most part, the video that's coming out of these things is incredible and looks
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
And
And
so,
if you know what you're doing, like with editing and color grading,
yeah,
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 and just creativity and knowing how to use a camera. Like this is a good moment for shallow depth of field. This is a good moment for slow mo. This is
yeah,
a good moment for a wide shot. If you really have that kind of understanding, the iPhone capability all of a sudden is like a whole different level. And we talked about
right.
this before about it being an amazing second camera in many scenarios too for people. So I would totally use my iPhone 15 as a second camera to accommodate my GH5. And I even have you shoot the iPhone in log, and then I set my GH5 to be in log, and then when I open up DaVinci, just throw the Rec 709 LUT on both of those things. You can probably tell some subtle differences for sure, because there's a difference
Yeah, for
between
sure.
real lenses and like the phone, right? But if you're good at what you do, like you can interchangeably, or you can interchange that footage pretty effectively, and it looks amazing.
Yeah, no one is gonna argue that at this point anyway that you can't tell the difference.
We're
But
not, yeah, we're not there yet. Yeah,
there are more and more scenarios where it's like, are the differences enough to justify carrying this giant thing with me whenever I go to do the shoot, or having this extremely modular? And then like I saw um, a great video this weekend from Jonathan Morrison, who's a YouTuber. We've actually done some stuff. Like Jonathan has appeared at some of our kind of like stuff at trade shows and stuff like that, doing workshops and stuff. Jonathan is like a really fascinating dude. Like he started off as a tech YouTuber, but then he got like really interested in like audio mixing. And so he started doing some of that, but then he's had some health issues these past few years where literally like his kind of like the nerves in his eyes, I think, started to kind of like not talk to his brain. And so like he it basically turns into, it's not blindness, it's just the inability to be able to kind of like understand what you're seeing when you're seeing it. So anyway,
right.
all of that to say, like if you haven't checked his channel out, please, yeah, go check out Jonathan's channel. But like he did a great video on using iPhones. What he has done since then is he's moved away from using like an actual kind of like large sensor camera to using the iPhone to shoot his videos with. And a big part of that is because the screen is so legible. Like typically, if you were going to get the point he makes in the video, the screen that's in the iPhone, to get that type of screen on a camera, you typically have to buy like like a Ninja, like essentially, and strap that on top of a cage, because the screens that come on cameras are not the iPhone screen. So it's this nice large, he's shooting with a Pro Max, 7-inch screen where you can see exactly what you're shooting.
Yeah.
And get like, and the controls, and have everything on this, like it's extremely accessible. So like the larger point here is that not only is it a cheaper alternative for professional filmmaking and video making, it's also an accessibility thing where who doesn't have an iPhone nearby these days where you could just immediately start going and making movies? Who doesn't have iMovie on that iPhone to like learn how to do, film editing and basic edits and stuff like that?
Right.
And a ton of other like apps and stuff like that you can get creative with and learn all these things. And so it just kind of makes sense going back to this Moment product, the Supercage. Some of the really interesting things that they're solving here is kind of like, okay, you want a modular kind of solution for your iPhone. And it's been very piecemeal. Like you can make what they've created by like sticking a bunch of different things together. But what they've created here is like a USB-C hub that lives inside the cage. So the cage is very modular in that you can clamp an iPhone in there, and then the cage has rail systems where you can put lighting or hard drives like our awesome little guy here, the Electron. You can put hard drives like that are like perfect for shooting small and compact and super fast. But now instead of having to hook those things directly into the phone or rigging up like a tiny little hub that you put on top of it, the cage itself is the hub.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's got audio inputs in there. It's got like, it'll charge your iPhone. So you basically, there's a charging cord that goes from the cage into the iPhone. Yep. And then from there, it'll charge the phone if you have like a battery connected to the cage. And you can connect your hard drives like the Electron here, so that you can record, ProRes log directly to a hard drive. I mean, it's at that point, that's a professional loadout. And honestly, the argument of kind of like, well, yeah, at that point it's a professional, but it's like, why wouldn't you just use a camera? It's like, because at that point, the cost savings is enormous. Like this cage is going to cost like $200, around $200. I think as low as $160, but with certain options, like $220. Plus your $999 iPhone Pro 16, or maybe your even cheaper iPhone 15 Pro or 15 Pro Max. $1,200 for like a loadout like that a great run and gun loadout.
Yeah, I mean,
it's pretty hard to find.
It's not even just the money. The money's a big part, obviously, for all of us.
Sure.
But like,
right,
the planning and the gear, like if you're a legit camera person and all you need, you've been tasked, you've been paid to go out and get a bunch of like great footage for B-roll and some interviews and stuff like that, and most of it you've been told is going to be used for social media purposes and stuff like that. It's like, why am I going to stuff like an Ari or an Alexa and then a freaking or an FS7 or like some giant ass camera with all these big lenses and like a bunch of giant crazy battery packs and stuff. Like there's also the, how much crap do I want to drag through an airport in 25 Pelican cases?
Right.
You know, do I
Right.
really need all this, or can I get away with certain using my phone and then I set up like this for this particular project? And so it at least gives some DPs and like, you know, freelance camera guys some options to be able to do more with less and still have the quality be, you know, decent or whatever, you know.
It's just super exciting to me that there's companies that are doing the work to kind of figure out kind of like these accessories, because like I said, it's been very like, you could cobble something together very similar to this, but like, man, if you've ever done it, you know, like how killer this kind of like setup is going to be and how much how many fewer cables and, you know, finickiness that you're going to have to do. I love it. Moment is just a dope company in general. I mean, like they are kind of like, they have always seen the potential of the iPhone for kind of, because their background is definitely doing like a lot of skateboarding filmmaking, and so kind of like they've seen from the very beginning like the potential that this phone that the iPhone has as a run and gun camera, and like over the years that has just gotten better and better, which is probably a good segue to talk about this guy, the iPhone 16 Pro.
Oh yes.
So I received.
You're blurry if you do it that way.
Look at, there we go.
There we go.
There it is.
Yeah.
It finally latched onto it.
Yeah.
So there it is. And then here, let me see if I can get this in focus here. There is the new camera and control button for the iPhone 16 Pro, iPhone, and the iPhone 16. The non-Pro models even have this little guy on it. So that's kind of the bulk of what I want to talk about, because I've only had the phone I've had it for less than a week now. I just kind of wanted to give you guys my initial impressions of it. Honestly, like for the most part, this is pretty in large part the same phone in a lot of ways as the 15 Pro. I actually downsized from the Pro Max to the Pro for this one, because one of the main differences with the 16 Pro is that unlike the 15 Pro, its telephoto is now 5x instead of 3x. Okay. So last year, only the Pro Max had the 5x telephoto, and I use it all the time. Like, I love it. It's one of my favorite additions to the iPhone in many, many years. So I didn't like the extra weight and size of the Pro Max, and so I was super stoked that the 16 Pro got the 5x just like the Pro Max this year. So that's one thing. And then obviously the other big change, like I was talking about, is this camera control button. If you can kind of see here, whenever I hit the button, it immediately opens up the camera app here. And then if you kind of like soft touch it here, you get like these little option menus that kind of like pop up. So it's cool. It lets you kind of like easily flick through certain options, open the camera very quickly. And then it's also going to be used for like an AI feature that hasn't been enabled yet. In terms of the camera control button, if you're kind of like, oh man, is that worth upgrading for? I would say no. It's not exactly what I was hoping it would be. Now, they are planning, and they haven't released this feature yet, because it's also coming in a future software update, which is kind of a theme with these new phones. Not everything came on the phone that's currently being marketed. The camera control button is there. It does open the camera. It can be used to take a picture, and it can be used to kind of like toggle a tiny little options menu. And that's super handy, if not a little finicky. But the thing that's coming is two-stage shutter. So if you're using a point and shoot or a camera for years now, you've been able to half press the shutter button to focus, and then fully depress the shutter button to take the picture. That's coming. And that will be cool. Like, that will be fantastic to be able to have kind of two-stage focus and maybe even some kind of like software tracking on your iPhone. That would be dope. So we'll see what that looks like. We don't know yet. So when that happens, camera control, I think, is going to get a huge boost in functionality. Right now, it's just a shortcut to open the camera. It's another button that you can use to, I think, in terms of taking a picture with the shutter button, with the camera control button, the button is just a little stiff. And so when you push it down, even if you've got it in two hands, you kind of move the camera a little bit, or you feel like, now in software, Apple, I think, is doing enough to kind of offset that, because actually, because it's got zero shutter lag, it's probably taking that picture a fraction of a second before you actually push the button.
Right.
So it's accounting for that. It just doesn't feel great. It doesn't feel as solid as like taking a picture with like a mechanical shutter or like even an electronic shutter. Right. It just doesn't. It doesn't feel great. I think they need to work on the button itself.
Yeah.
The half press feels good. Where things get a little finicky is that when you do the half press, you can use that button as like a slider. And so you can swipe across the button and it will swipe elements across the screen.
Oh, interesting.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so you can use, so we'll see if you can actually see this here, but let me I'll open the camera and then let's see if it actually focuses. Hello.
Come on, you can do it. Is it going to do it?
This. It's not going to do it.
Pull back just a little bit.
Let's see. Maybe that was too close.
There
it is. All right, so here we go. All right, so you can kind of see here when I double press it, these options come up, and then as I slide my finger across it, you get these little things here. Problem one, this is not a customizable list. So it's like, I'm never going to use this depth one. I'm never going to use the zoom one. I'm never going to use the cameras one. Let's just say that really what you're interested in using is tone or styles here, and then maybe on the other end, exposure. Like just knocking down your EV a little bit, or knocking it down or knocking it up.
Yeah.
You can't like reorder those. So you're left like swiping all the way. And it's very finicky, like swiping across this button to get to where you're going. And so some people actually figured out you could still swipe the screen. And so then that works a little better. So that's maybe for version 2, a little bit less stiff, a little bit more responsive to the swipes, and hopefully at some point being able to edit that list, because there's still so much screen real estate that I can change the lenses and the zoom just fine on the screen. I really want this to kind of like dial in exposure and maybe photographic styles.
Yeah.
So that's camera control. I mean, like, it's cool, but it's not as cool as it has the potential to be. We'll wait to see the 2-stage shutter. That's going to be dope. Like, I'm really excited about that. And then taking pictures with it feels okay, but it's still a little stiff. The other big thing to know about with the camera is called Photographic Styles. So this is what Photographic Styles looks like. See if I got better at this. There we go. So you can kind of see it's this little touchpad.
Oh, interesting.
And so if I swipe up here, it's pretty accessible. Like usually with like a little swipe up, if you're off the camera, it typically will open. Usually it'll open up like automatically, but like you can actually like, you can see how it's changing the look. So this is different from a filter. Because a filter is basically just like a color that's applied over top of a photo.
Sure, yeah. It's like a color scheme, basically, yeah.
It'll impact your shadows and your highlights, but it's not changing your shadows and your highlights. This is actually, photographic styles are actually part of the imaging pipeline on iPhone 16 and 16 Pro. So you're essentially making sensor adjustments to how the sensor is capturing highlights and shadows, or exposing those highlights and shadows. So it's almost like editing a photo before editing a photo, or creating like a film simulation like you would have on like a Fujifilm camera.
Right.
While you're taking a photo, but you can also make changes to that photographic style, that little touchpad. You can do that after you take it. It preserves all of the data. So that's been cool. That's been a lot of fun to play with. Like, I didn't know how much I would use that, how much I would want to use it kind of coming in. But once you start fiddling around with it, you can kind of like, I figured out that the way that I'm going to edit a photo, Apple has put in a bunch of these different kind of, some of them deal specifically with skin tones, and those are called undertones. And then there are others that deal specifically with kind of like exposure and tone, and those are called moods.
Right.
So
Got
Yeah,
it.
so like if you know you're taking a portrait, you're taking a picture of a person, maybe you're like your favorite one is gold or amber, and you can dial in that one specifically the way you like it to where I'm going to take a photo of my, somebody's birthday. I'm going to go ahead and get the camera into gold or amber, and I'm going to take the photo. Or you're outside, and you're just going to take like a picture of a landscape. You can go ahead and pull up like natural or luminous or cozy or any of these other moods, and you can really dial it in. Like maybe this outdoor setting is really heavy in the shadows, and so if your shadows are too deep, the whole picture is going to look a little too dark.
Right.
Now, what we're describing here is typically what you think about as you're adjusting shutter speed, aperture, and stuff. So these are like enthusiast or even more like professional level considerations. Most people, 99.99% of people, when they pull an iPhone out of their pocket, they're just pulling it out, they're opening camera, they're taking a picture, putting it back in their pocket.
Usually they're taking like 92 pictures of the same thing.
That's true. That's true. But they're not thinking about these things.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So like what you kind of realize is when you start playing with this is just like, oh, people aren't going to do this.
Right.
Like nobody's going to do this. Like effectively. So what Apple has really done here is, and the photographic styles, as far as I remember, they're only available on the Pro phones. You can't, the 16 Pro or the 16 and the 16 Plus don't have photographic styles, just the Pro and the Pro Max. That makes sense because this needs to be something that you're making like a conscious effort to get into, tweak, refine, and learn about, because it's kind of, you can't fiddle with shutter speed to the degree that you can on an actual camera.
Right.
You can adjust shutter speed and ISO, but you can't really mess with f-stop. You can't really adjust shutter speed to your liking. You can't adjust ISO to your liking.
For ISO, yes, but can't you, with the iPhone 15, at least what I recall seeing in there is that you can adjust the f-stop, not in cinematic mode, but in regular mode. You can actually go in and adjust for that.
You can adjust but it's not so like on a camera when you're adjusting your f-stop, it's doing two things, right? It's making the depth of field shallower or deeper, and it's letting more light or less light into the camera.
Right.
On an iPhone, it's just doing the software blurring.
Yeah, I mean that's basically exactly. It's kind of
just
doing
depth
the
of
software
field.
version. Yeah, that makes sense.
So you can, to your point, you can adjust depth of field, and they call it
f-stop on the phone. Yeah, but it's not.
But you're not
really
letting more light into the camera.
Right. It's trying to make those adjustments for you on the ISO side.
Yes.
Right.
So because like what happens is on an f-stop when you open the camera up, you're letting in more light. So it's literally like the shutter is opening up wider, and when you go higher on the f scale, it's getting smaller, so less light is coming in. On an iPhone, it's fixed. Aperture is fixed on an iPhone. It's not going up. It's not going down. It's like, I think it's a 1.7 or a 1.8 aperture lens. Or maybe it's a little bit less than that now. I can't remember exactly. That's not changing. Yeah. Whereas on a camera, you can adjust that, and that opening grows, or on a normal lens. And so, point being, you can't really adjust the things that typically impact the highlights and the shadows and the midtones and everything else when you're taking the picture on an iPhone. So what they've done is through software, kind of like how they've done with like adding depth of field with like a software blur that's gotten better and better. They've added like a software way of adjusting the look of your photos if you want to fiddle around with like a slider. And it's pretty cool. Like not only is it adjusting tone and contrast, highlights, midtones, stuff like that, it's doing that, but there's some of these styles that add color into that pipeline.
Right.
So it's color grading at the same time as it's doing like S-curves.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah.
So it's a combination of a bunch of concepts, none of which, like, because I already had this conversation with my wife, and she went like her eyes rolled into the back of her head as soon as I started talking about it. And it's got, and like that just, to me, it just confirms to me, like, I think it's really cool, but most people are gonna like probably not even use this feature or try to dig for it. But what's exciting, if you're a Fuji like aficionado, you love the Fuji cameras, you're like, do I need to carry my Fuji with me, or can I just bring my iPhone? We are getting, I would say, I would full-heartedly say if you are a Ricoh GR3, GR3X, GR HDF, whatever, if you have a Ricoh GR3, if I had one, I would leave it at home now. I'm in favor of the iPhone.
Yeah.
Because that is a camera, even though it has an APS-C sensor, I've just never been a fan of the backgrounds and how
Yeah.
soft things get.
Yeah.
For some reason on a GR3 photo, I'm still not, it's the backgrounds are too busy. Whereas the lens on like a Fujifilm X100, I'm getting more separation and depth of field on that
Yeah.
lens to where, so I don't think an iPhone, I think an iPhone has officially surpassed like a Ricoh as a point and shoot, but it's still not quite to the Fuji, but it's getting Fuji-like capabilities with photographic styles. So if you're big into photography, not only are you getting on the 16 Pros, you're getting 5x on both models now for telephoto. You're getting a 48 megapixel sensor on both the ultra wide and the standard kind of 24 millimeter lens. So you've got just more light and a larger sensor that's adding to that like nice soft background that you're increasingly getting. And now you've got these photographic styles that give you the ability finally to dial in a photo inside the stock camera app.
Right.
With the camera button. And when you add two-stage shutter to that,
that's pretty dope, dude.
It's a pretty compelling case. And I like, if you haven't checked it out yet, go watch Nilay Patel at The Verge's review of the iPhone 16 Pro models, because he gets even further into like how Apple is doing photographic styles, like how they pulled it off. And in a world where the picture that Samsung's phones is taking versus the picture that a Pixel is taking versus the picture that an iPhone is taking out of the box, they all look the same.
Yeah.
They all look the same. They're washed out. Yeah. Highlights are overexposed. Shadows are overexposed. Like everything is just bright for brightness sake and HDR sake. Photographic styles actually give you the ability to like bring some like, you know, artistic differentiation and some shadows back into your photos.
Well, you and I are probably, we fall in that category of, you know, folks with our phones taking photos, taking video, where we actually care about the presentation, the composition, the colors, the lighting. I remember like, I think it was when I got this phone, actually the 15 and the 14, or no, the 13 is one I had before that. But like you would just take a normal shot and like a photo, and the skin tones were always kind of off. Like, like white people looked more pink, you know, generally, and that was super annoying. And then, and then if you try to adjust to that, then it would totally jack the background up too. So it looks like with this phone, there's a lot more freedom to go in there and actually control that stuff. And it's funny because most people out there are like, why the hell would you spend so much time, you know, messing around with this one photo you just took? It's like, well, if you're not a creator and you're not a camera person, then of course you're not going to care. You're going to be on Snapchat sending pictures of your dog that are all blurry and they suck, you know, or whatever.
And I do now. I will say, for the people who don't want to do that, and sometimes I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
For the people who don't want to do that, I think I would love to see these, because like, man, you used to look at Pixel photos like from the very first few Pixel phones.
Yeah.
And there was an opinion in those photos of like, this is how we think a photo should be exposed. Here's what we think about shadows and highlights, and like this is our take on tone. And like it was awesome. It was like it gave Pixel photos like a very distinct look apart from the iPhone. Used to have that. Some of my favorite photos that I've ever taken, there was just something about the sensor and the way that photos were actually developed in that pipeline on the iPhone 7. Like the iPhone 7 just took gorgeous photos, and I don't really know why.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of people who have the same, like, oh my gosh, yeah, exactly. Like the iPhone 7 was a great phone for taking photos.
I feel like some of the later models after that, they were trying to go farther with the technology's assumption about what you wanted a photo to look like, and they kind of went like too far with it to where you're like, this looks weird now.
HDR and night mode have had just a horrible impact on mobile photography.
I'm sorry, but people that just choose HDR just so they can say they're shooting things in HDR, like I feel like I'm looking at a digital illustration of something, like a cartoon version of things, like of reality, you know, like, oh, everything is so crisp and we're able to work with all these different layers of like
Yeah.
tonal ranges and stuff like that too. And I'm like, well, it looks like a cartoon. Like I just laid some like silly, goofy filter on the photo. It doesn't look
Yeah.
like
You don't see it as much anymore. Like when it
Yeah.
became when HDR just became kind of like a thing that your phone did built in.
Yeah.
Do you remember how often you would see HDR photography because it was unique because it looks so different from a normal photo?
Yeah.
And it was something that you would do through kind of like Photoshop or some other kind of editing program. So you had to have some kind of like skill to make this HDR photo.
Yeah.
But the first time that you figured out, like, let's just say you're learning how to use Lightroom, and you're just like, oh wait, when I like up the contrast and completely like up the highlights or take like overexpose the highlights and up the contrast, like HDR photo. So like it was something that was kind of like a thing for a little while, and then it quickly fell out of favor once it was just something your phone did, because everyone was like, oh wait, this looks kind of not great. Like it still has its place, or like multiple exposure photography and like astrophotography, to where different things, you need to combine multiple frames to kind of properly expose a bunch of different elements in the same frame. So it still has its place, but it's like, is it cool that we can take photos where you can see better at night? Yes.
Yeah.
But if you showed two people like a photo that was like properly exposed, or one that was, with shadows, and it kind of like recreates kind of what the moment felt like at night, versus one where it's just like, oh look, I can see perfectly expose the eaves of this. It's like, yeah, but your eyes couldn't see that. Like, why would you? It looks unnatural.
Right.
And they like you said, they kept going.
Yeah.
And they like, I feel like night mode has completely crept into like scenes that don't need
they don't need
that level of exposure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it just looks weird. It doesn't make for a better photo or even a more interesting photo. It just kind of like I accidentally did this and shipped it out the door.
Yeah. And then the thing where you're swiping through your photos, and I mean the other big kind of like, you'll be swiping through your photos and then that HDR brightness effect hits.
Yeah.
I hate it. Like
it looks like a filter to me. It looks like a cartoon filter when I see it on stuff out there, and so I think that's part of why.
Here's your photo, but completely overexposed. What do you think? I was like, no, I don't.
Dude, that's amazing. It's so artsy.
But
yeah,
going back to like one final note on the 16 Pro camera, where you're at is a place, and I mentioned the Ricoh GR III comparison and why I would choose the iPhone over the GR III. I just don't think the GR3's lens is good enough in terms of, it's just not my cup of tea. There are people look, and this is probably sacrilege to a lot of people because a lot of people love that camera. I just never thought that it had the background separation. The backgrounds were too busy for my taste. But with the iPhone, you've now got, in the past you had to shoot kind of like, with the 15 Pro to get good photographs, to me, that weren't over processed and over HDR'd by kind of like the phone's stock camera app.
Yeah.
I was taking like 48 megapixel ProRes RAW files, and then I was editing those. Okay. What the 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max represent is I'm getting 24 megabyte files, which are great. That's plenty of for printing, for scaling up. 24 megapixel. 24 megapixel files are plenty big. And you're getting that without having to take RAW files now. And you're not having to do as much editing because you're able now to dial in the look of the photo before you take it or after you take it without having to go into Lightroom at all.
Yeah.
So this phone's kind of, I don't know. I think a lot of people looked at it and were like, but I think that if you care about photography and you use your iPhone a lot, or you want to use your iPhone a lot, once you have it, it'll be more meaningful.
Well,
I think go ahead.
I think with the phones too, with Apple and any brands, any technology that we're into or whatever, you just got to be cool with being along for the ride. Like everything's going to be like, this is better, and then this other thing got weird. Oh, now that thing's better, and now this other thing's kind of weird, and now and so like just be along for the ride, and honestly, it's still in my opinion, just a really, really exciting time to be a creative with stuff related to cameras, shooting photos and video. Like,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
so, everything is so fun all the time,
Yeah.
you know, and like that part of it, I think is super dope. And so the fact that you can
100%.
go out and it's actually sometimes the iPhone, in some cases, it can be a really easy way to teach new people that are interested in shooting photos and stuff like that. Actually, teaching them about the fundamentals,
Yeah.
ISO, color, stuff like that. There's no replacement for showing them that on a real camera that has like knobs and clicky things and stuff like that. But at the same time, being able to show, oh, here's what happens when you are in a dark room and the ISO is super low and now it's super high. Oh, you can see more when you go higher with it, but now there's a little bit of noise, and here's why. Like you can actually
Yep.
do this you can almost use the phone as like a tutorial for like walking through some of those concepts and
Yeah.
show them how to control it. Like, because I've showed some like young teenagers how to like address some or learn about some of those concepts just with my phone, and
Right.
that's pretty cool. And so when they get a real camera, it's easy to make a real camera seem a lot less complicated and overwhelming and daunting to learn for the first time. They're like, oh, this is just that ISO thing you were talking about, and here's how you control it on a camera, and here's what that looks like now. Shutter speed, f-stop, all those things, you know. So now
Yeah.
they can just translate back and forth just the terms. So that's pretty cool. So using it as a learning tool for people that want to understand some of those basic sort of, you know, manual mode concepts, it's pretty cool.
I really do hope that people will go into the photographic styles and play around with them and
Yeah.
stuff like that, because like I have been just with messing around in the backyard.
Mm-hmm.
I was able to get some results where I was kind of like, huh, yeah, like that's not too far away from a photo that I would have taken with like a Fuji X100 or something
Yeah.
like that.
Totally.
And you know, I know those are compact cameras, but they're not like small. It's not like with a Fuji you can't put it in your pocket.
Right.
It's something that's got to go on a strap or in a bag.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, just Apple, please keep increasing the sensor sizes, and they think get this thing to a 1-inch sensor, and then I think because like that's what an RX 100, you know, Mark 7, the little Sony pocket cam.
Oh yeah.
It's got a 1-inch sensor. When you get to a 1-inch sensor, and then like I just don't know what they'll ever do about. I feel like they're gonna have to always rely on software for the depth of field, which that sucks, but the software will eventually become.
But whatever, with the same device, you can do your banking. So
That's true. You have but that's a good point. You kind of have to keep this in mind that, like, at the end of the day, like, you're asking a lot.
Yes, dude. The
Thing.
phone does so many other things outside of camera stuff. So if we people that go a little bit too far in criticizing the camera capability of a freaking phone, it's like, well, hold up, bro. You can also work and, you know, check email, communicate with people. You can track things. You can order stuff on the internet. It shows up at your doorstep tomorrow. It's like there's one comedian who I won't name because he's a little bit controversial, but the joke that he had about, you know, everybody is pissed off, but everything's amazing right now. So why are they pissed off? And he was just saying, you know, look at airplanes. You know, people get on the airplane.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and they're complaining about, you know, the Wi-Fi is kind of slow or this food's not that good. And
we're like, flying.
He's like, you're sitting in a chair in the sky.
In the sky, right? Yeah.
You know, so anyway,
100%.
and it's totally true. It's like it's never going to be good enough, you know. So anyway,
it's like it's the narrative that, like, you know, all of the financial rags we're talking about, like, is AI enough for a super cycle? It's like, well, no, that was never like, but I feel like people look at Apple and it's like every quarter or every year it's got to be an upgrade super cycle.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not.
No, there's incremental. I mean, they have to be able to do incremental stuff, because if they don't, then that means they're not able to test certain things in the real world environment, so that when they do the super cycle, you know, it's going to be dope. It's going to be tested. It's been basically the incremental ones, that's their field testing. We are their QA department,
Yeah. Well,
essentially,
I have not brought up AI, the Apple Intelligence features, one time, and it's because honestly, those could have just been a software update. And like I'm
Yeah.
on the beta, so I do have access. That's the thing, is like if you're running iOS 18, you have no Apple Intelligence features on your phone right now,
Yeah.
and so that means really like Siri's a little bit better. There's some like writing suggestions.
Right.
None of the image generation things are available yet.
Yeah.
But we know that none of them are going to be like real image. It's like cartoons and emojis and stuff
Yeah.
like that it can create. But it's like no one's going to buy a phone for that.
No.
Those could have just been like little nice throw-ins but because of the current AI climate, it had to be like packaged and now it's dominating the marketing.
Yeah.
For the iPhone 16s.
It's annoying.
And it's not even on the phone. So people are like getting new iPhones and they're like, where's all these AI features? And they're like, yeah, you have to download a beta. And then,
It's like they think that they're going to open up this new phone, that the first thing they see on the home screen is a giant AI button. You just
how do I turn on the AI features?
But all of a sudden you have AI in your life. Yeah, who knows?
How many people out there are just like got their new iPhones and are just like super sad that none of the AI features are there? They'll probably be like, oh well. That's probably the end of it. Like no one's mad.
Yeah, they're actually more thrilled that they just have the latest phone, almost at an irrational level where they don't even know why they're so thrilled that they have the latest phone. They're just like,
is that the new one?
It's the latest, bro. It's the latest.
It's the latest.
Like, okay,
120.
So your Chase banking app is like, a fraction of a nanosecond faster when you launch it now. Okay.
I will say it feels snappier than the 15.
Yeah.
And the 15 is like super fast, but there's the RAM in this. Like I can just go back and forth between apps. So if you're a power user and you're on like a 13 or a 14, the 16 is gonna be like
bonkers.
It never slows down. Like there's lots of times where I'm like swiping between two apps to like look at something and then type, and like the keyboard is there by the time I get back to the other app. I mean, so a little quality of life improvements like that.
That's pretty dope. All right. Well, hey, I think we've beat the iPhone 16 into the ground mercilessly.
Let's talk about another small company.
Another little
called Meta.
And and I think with the first thing when I saw this photo here, this thumbnail used for this video,
right,
it's like nobody's talking about the evolution of Zuckerberg's hair.
Look, man.
If you look at old photos of him, he had like the short kind of tech bro Ivy League college hairdo, super short, and he definitely, he looked a little bit like an alien.
Has anyone had a glow up to the extent that Mark Zuckerberg? I mean, like, he looks healthy. He looks great.
Well, like, dude, all he does all day,
more naturally.
If you have that much money, he basically is like the poster child for what every super dork who's totally like socially incompetent wants to be. But this guy, you see all the videos, he's out there surfing, he's doing MMA, he's like got all this. There's literally, money is not like a thing. So
no, but good for him. He seems happier.
That's cool. But
you remember when I don't know how much this would be lost on you, Rich, but it's like if you follow the NFL and you just saw like Tom Brady before he left the Patriots to when Tom Brady left the Patriots, that's what we're seeing here.
His jawline. Did you see those before and after photos?
I mean, that's something different. But like, I think mental health wise, Tom Brady was like, wait, Tom Brady's making jokes? Tom Brady's like speaking more than like 2-word sentences like Bill Belichick. I mean, it's like, I don't know, I mean, good for Zuck. Maybe he's just getting more exercise and he's just feeling more confident or more at peace, or maybe it's just kind of like, holy crap, can you imagine how stressful building one of the world's largest companies is and then trying to keep it on top amid all the privacy stuff? And then and then he was just like, you know what, I don't even care about any of that anymore because I just want to
make things,
VR stuff. And so
like, so
he's a different dude now.
So they came out with their their AR glasses. And one of the things that I liked, and I think we talked about this a little bit when we were covering this topic, but they don't look stupid. Like they don't look like Tron glasses, you know, from the
Yeah.
freaking 80s or whatever. So they actually, you know, look like Wayfarers almost. I haven't spent a lot of time reading about kind of where they're headed on the tech side
Mm.
with the Orion glasses.
Yeah.
But what are some of the things that you've learned so
Yeah. So,
far?
I mean, like, this is obviously like an evolution. The market right now for mixed reality or augmented reality glasses is really between Apple and Meta at this point. And it's not really between those two because like Meta has such a huge lead over Apple at this point.
Right.
But I mean, and you could say number of SKUs, number of price points, number of developers that are actively working on stuff for the products. I mean, Meta leads in every respect. And so, like, obviously, like, Meta bought Oculus, which was basically making, like, a video games headset.
Yeah.
Oculus is by far the most popular virtual reality, mixed reality headset in the world now.
Right.
And then, so you've got those headsets. They actually released a new version, like at a cheaper price point, of the Oculus called the Oculus 3S. That is mainly a gaming and kind of like maybe some productivity stuff, but it's like the normal kind of like ski goggle sized thing that you have to put over your head, kind of like the Vision Pro from Apple. So that's that. Clearly, the future, though, as we've talked about on this show before, is figuring out a way to put that technology to where you can get like stuff in your vision data that is
well
put into your field of view into something that's the size of a pair of Wayfarers.
One of the examples they gave here was, so the Ray-Ban, the smart glasses are different than Orion, because the Orion stuff actually brings generative AI capability into the whole AR experience. And one example they gave here is like they use the Orion to just look at a bunch of ingredients for a smoothie recipe, and it was able to actually place labels over the ingredients and generate
in the field of view.
In the field of view, and then generate instructions for the recipe in a like floating window above those things. And
so the lenses themselves, right? So like there's no display. Well, it is a display. So like the way that Vision Pro and the Oculus work right now are there's screens put real close to your eyes in those headsets. Obviously, the future, right, is figuring out a way to make a pair of glasses with transparent lenses, but then the screen is in the glass or in the lenses. So, like, that's what this does. And it is by far the most impressive looking demo of anything that we've seen yet. They are still really, really thick, and they look a little weird. And then there's like that reflectiveness in the lenses because there's actually a display in the lenses. So, like, it's actually not a display. It's silicon carbide. It's not glass. It's not plastic. The lenses in the glasses themselves are made of silicon carbide. And so what's going on, there's projectors in the glasses, in the frame, that are projecting what you're seeing into that silicon carbide. And so apparently silicon carbide is just it's much more refractive than glass. So it makes for a better thing to put that projector into.
Yeah.
So it's like you were saying, like what you're seeing is not a display. You're seeing through the glasses, and then the glasses are actually able to display these UI elements on top of what you're seeing and it's a 70-degree field of view. So that's pretty narrow, but it's a lot wider than anything anyone else has shown. Like recently, Snapchat showed off their new spectacles. They look terrible. The Meta is so far ahead on the hardware, on the UI, on everything else. And so, like, this is not something that you're going to be able to buy.
Right.
There are only 1,000 of these that were made, and because they were so expensive, Meta just decided not to sell them because they couldn't figure out a way, like, which basically means that you're talking about something that would be more expensive than the $3,500 Vision Pro from Apple.
Yeah.
Like, who knows how? I mean, $10,000, $20,000, because it's a lot of the technology in the Vision Pro that cost $3,500 shrunk down to a kind of normal looking pair of glasses. Like, you can still kind of tell these aren't normal glasses. They weigh about just under 4 ounces. So they're not like super light either. So they're not as light as a pair of reading glasses or something like that. But It's very cool. They're controlled with there's like a wristband.
Yep.
It's called a neural wristband, and it
Yeah.
can actually like it reads the electrical kind of like impulses in your skin and everything to kind of figure out what the
Yeah.
motions you're making.
It says
Um,
electromyography, EMG,
yeah,
what it is. Yeah. And they're saying like, yeah, all the haptic stuff. They're saying it doesn't like read your mind. Like here's what it says: it's not reading your thoughts, but it kind of feels like it. So some of the haptic stuff, just by like flipping your hand a certain way or whatever, in conjunction with the neural, like sort of, what do they call it? It's not like this guy right here. The neural, you got the neural wristband, and then you have the wireless compute puck, which is this like
right. So it's
long
not
black thing.
doing all of the processing on the glasses. It's doing some of it in that puck to kind
Yeah.
of help with battery life and weight.
Yep. Yep. So now the only downside, I guess, which is if you're going to buy something like this, you're going to be in it for the full experience. You're going to be okay with all the accessories required to actually
Mm,
do the thing, but having to walk around with more accessories, it's just
yeah,
like, dude,
right.
oh man. I mean, I don't know.
But even at this point, right?
Yeah,
Like with the Vision Pro, you would look ridiculous. I'm sorry. Like I know that there's people kind of doing it that are wearing them on airplanes and
it looks
whatever. And like,
stupid. I
I'm
hate it.
sorry. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't want to do it. And then I would say 99% of people out there don't want to do that because of the way it would look. But like, this is definitely more in the line of like people would consider it. But you've
yeah,
still got the wristband. You've still got this like we don't even know if it is truly portable because it's still that wireless puck. Like I don't know, does it have its own battery? There's a lot we don't know, but like check out the Verge article and watch the video because it gives you kind of some like understanding of kind of like what the UI elements look like. It's impressive. It's really cool, and it's definitely
yeah.
a lot closer to like what people would actually be willing to do than what Apple has right now,
Right, right, right.
for sure.
Yeah, and these things, yeah, to what your point earlier about the cost. I mean, these things were they had to shelve it because they did 1,000 pairs and they were 10 grand each.
No. That was me 100% going like, how much could it have cost? Because like they said, oh no, it did say 10,000. I was
Oh
a
yeah,
guess, so I just happened to be right. So they
yeah.
cost 10,000 to build.
Oh, to build them. Okay, wow. That means to make any money off those things whatsoever, they're probably going to cost 12 to 15 grand per unit.
Right,
Yeah,
and so like they're
insane.
like, okay, well, if that's where we're at, then we'll just
Yeah,
keep them internal, and they'll be like developer units
but
for internal
the
use.
concept is cool. Like I can definitely see if I had something like this on an airplane, it wouldn't bother me that I had that. I mean, I already have enough crap and battery packs anyway in my backpack when I'm traveling. So just throwing that little
Mm-hmm.
hockey puck thing in there so I could do all kinds of crazy shit with these glasses is pretty cool. And they don't look all stupid either. So
And the software, the thing, so the whole problem here is hardware because like the stuff that they showed it doing, you can do that with. So I have a pair of the Meta Ray Bans, and I love them. Like they're fantastic. They're glasses that I can listen to music with, that I can do voice commands with, that I can use. They have cameras in them, so I can like take pictures with it. That's come in handy like on vacations and stuff like
yeah,
that. I love it, and they take great photos. So like they've got a really great hardware product already with some of the AI stuff. So the that AI feature that you mentioned with like looking at the ingredients and like show me a recipe or like find me a recipe with these ingredients,
yeah,
the current Meta Ray Bans can do stuff like that. Like you
yeah.
can say, what am I looking at? What type of flour is this or whatever? And it'll take a
Sure.
picture, upload it, and then tell you what it
Check it.
found.
Yeah,
Yeah. So like, it's not like, again, the software it will be kind of like, it's figuring out how to pack the visual stuff into a small package.
yeah,
That's gonna be
yeah,
difficult. But like it looks like far and away in the lead in this
yeah.
department, and it's definitely cool. We're closer than we thought.
Well,
It
dude,
looks
think
like.
think about what something like this would look like to somebody who was like in 1952.
Oh yeah,
You know what I
right.
mean?
Or cameras with glasses. I mean, there was like spy glasses or whatever
Yeah,
else. Like that's some Dick Tracy type stuff.
yeah, exactly. All right. Well, so enough of the Zuck for now. I'll put together a whole presentation on the evolution of Zuck's hair for next time.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
all the
He was
faces.
wearing a shirt that was like I think it was Latin, and it translates to Zuck or nothing.
Zucker
during the
bust.
keynote. Yeah, during the keynote. So
Hey, well, at least he's not a narcissist, so that's good.
no. Come on,
uh,
it's narcissism with a wink.
sure, right, yeah, and great hair now apparently, and fighting skills in the octagon.
Fighting skills,
Yeah. so
nunchuck skills.
this next article I'm going to share, this came out in January, and most of us in tech know what CES is. That's where we get to see all like the latest gadgets and gaming related stuff and what have you. But there's this really funny article that came out in January this year, kind of around the time the CES was kicking off after the new year. And it's basically the most ridiculous and weird CES gadgets from the last 25 years. Now, we won't have to go through all these, but this pretty freaking funny, and I have to give a shout out to people for just being willing to go like way out there outside the box to try things to make our lives easier. But some of these things, you try to picture people walking around public wearing some of this crap. The first photo on this page is some guy wearing some crazy device that's basically wrapped around the back of his head. It's hooked into his ears and over his mouth. And it looks like it might even be going into his nostrils. And if you look at the guy's eyes in this photo, he looks like, I can't believe I'm doing this for money.
Did you read what this thing is? Did you read what it is? It's different from that. This is a different product. They
Oh,
look
then the
very much the
Dyson.
same.
Okay.
This is called the Hush Me, and it's literally, it sounds like it's for like call centers, but it's like a headset so that you can hear and speak. So there's microphones inside of this thing, so you can speak to somebody on the other end and hear them, but then it mutes you so no one else can hear you.
Okay.
What a dystopian.
Weirdness.
So it sounds like it's for offices and call centers to make them quieter so that you don't have like a cacophony of people on the phone.
I can definitely think of some side use cases that maybe it wasn't designed for that it is perfect for. Like, say you have a bunch of toddlers at home.
Just strapping this thing to like babies' heads.
Just have all these, dude, in a daycare or preschool. All the kids have to wear these. And dude, think about how much more sane and not exhausted the teacher would be when they went home at the end of the day. I mean, granted, we probably completely stump and stunt all the social abilities of the children, but hey, whatever.
They that was the last product in the whole thing. So they clearly thought that was like the other stupid entries include the vacuum shoes. Those are at the very bottom.
Oh, they are. Okay. Yeah. Here, I'll scroll through these things real quick here. We got this air purifying headphones. I'm not sure why the headphones.
Those are from Dyson, and they were new. Okay, so like this was a real thing that Dyson put out last year, and it was the whole like COVID thing. Like it filters what you're breathing in.
Yeah.
And their headphones. And this was their like AirPods Max competitor.
So you only want to have clear lungs while listening to music? I don't understand what's going on.
This was
the
inclusion on this list kind of implies that it was like, oh, what a funny concept product. No. This was Dyson's first, like, we're going into headphones, folks. And we're not just going to do headphones. They're going to sound amazing, and you're going to filter what you're breathing in.
HEPA earphones. Perfect. It's good.
So they have since gotten rid of that, and they have just headphones now. So...
Right. Well, I'm sure that was R&D money well spent. Great. Good job, guys, on that prototype. I won't go, like I said, I won't go through all these guys. I'm not really sure why we need to have a smart toothbrush, to be honest. I mean,
yeah,
a toothbrush serves a very basic purpose. I don't need something measuring the plaque on each individual tooth as I'm brushing my teeth. Like, what?
Right.
Anyhow, that was a little bit ridiculous. A Taser MP3 holster.
Yeah, that's just the company name, Taser. I thought it had something to do with tasers, but it's just an MP3
it's a container for an MP3 player. Okay, got it. Yeah. This Pepe pet dryer, dude, if I put my Boston Terriers in this thing, they would
shut the door.
They would lose their minds. I can see
because there's no door.
One of my Boston, yeah, there is. There's one at the very top there. You can see that it like slides down.
You put them in it?
Yeah, you put them in it. and it dries them. I'm like,
You just do a hair dryer.
one of my Bosties has like massive separation anxiety, and if you leave her in a room without anybody and you shut the door, you'll come back in 5 minutes later and the entire room will be covered in dog shit.
It's a terrible idea.
Like, dude, I wonder if it's noisy too. Like, this thing automatically is, yeah.
I mean, just imagine being in a small box with a hair dryer, a small box with a low-powered hair dryer. Like, it would be really loud.
And you can't get out, and your owners are staring at you through the glass, the plexiglass.
There's no way they tested this on real animals.
No,
there's just not.
They just set a dog in there, or stuffed animal. That looks like a stuffed animal in there. Yeah, that's not the same thing as, I don't know, a real animal. So
a fork. This is the happy fork, and it buzzes to tell you to stop, shoving food into your face after 20 minutes.
I'm not gonna have any fork tell me how fast or slow I can eat a freaking tri-tip. Sorry, that's not happening.
Amazing.
Yeah. I don't know, some crazy smart pant holding device that slims or expands to granular changes to your waistline.
It's huge.
Dude, think about the problems. What if that thing decided that you were skinnier than you actually are?
Yeah.
I mean, you're going to get crushed by this thing. It would tighten like the tail of the alien that, attaches itself to your face and wraps its tail around your neck. That could be super
Definitely
scary.
don't want to put AI into that thing.
No. Cybernaut Poma. I'm not sure what this guy's about. Anyway.
It looks like a Radio Shack ad from the 90s.
Vacuum shoes. Okay. But what the hell?
I just can't. That one, I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Well, like there's no way. Like that's a thought you might have. Like, oh wow, what if just shuffling around I could vacuum too? But it's kind of like as soon as you start thinking about like, but then it would just be vacuuming the surface area under my feet. How is that in any way better than a normal vacuum cleaner?
I just
but
picture
they
all
got
these...
past that point and they built prototypes.
What if you had your whole family wearing those things? I mean, and they're all preoccupied with how they're vacuuming while walking. Like everybody's going to be shuffling around the living room all awkward and shit. I don't know. It seems kind of weird.
It's like lawn maintenance by goat. It's like it's not going to look great immediately, but like over time, the goats just kind of take care of the grass.
I mean, what's next? Are they going to come up with the lawnmower version of that, or the weed eater? Like for your shoes, and you just walk through fields. And it trims everything for you. Who knows?
We didn't even talk about this one, but this was by far the best one on the list, and it was the Charmin Rollbot. And it looks like a joke, but it's a robot that brings you toilet paper when you need it. That solves an actual problem.
That would have solved a problem a couple times this week at our house. Yeah.
I can think of multiple instances in my 37 years on Earth where I haven't had toilet paper and I needed it.
Yeah.
And no instances of when I've ever wanted to vacuum with my feet.
Dude, and I have so many people living in my house right now. I can imagine realistically needing to have at least 3 or 4 of these little bastards rolling around bringing people toilet paper all the time. Yeah.
And like, look, nobody wants to have to yell out the bathroom door like, hey, can someone bring me toilet paper? Like that's not, no one wants to do that. And even less people want to be the one who brings the toilet paper.
Right. Exactly.
So this solves like a real social problem here. Like you just tell the robot to do it. No one's embarrassed. No one has to hear that you need toilet paper. No one gets mad at the person who didn't refill the toilet paper later because we've got the robot for that. This is A+. But they should have continued this.
I mean, what happens though when they partner with GoPro, Oh my god.
Hopefully it's just sensing via like LiDAR or something like that. And it's like they were mocked for this, and it's like no. This was something that we need.
My Boston Terriers would attack this thing with a
it's small too.
With extreme prejudice. Yeah, one of them in particular is like brutal with devices. Like we can't have any of the remote vacuum. The like, what are those things called that are super common?
Oh, like the Roombas or
Roombas. Yeah, you can't. Nobody can have a Roomba in my house because one of my Bosties will rip that thing to shreds like in 2 seconds. So
love our robot vacuum.
Yeah,
it's a mop and vacuum, and it's just like
interesting.
Oh, it's so wonderful. It's It's an EcoVac D-bot. But anyway, shout out EcoVacs, I guess. Little
Ecovac.
bit of free promotion there.
Yeah.
I love it. If you
Yeah.
have wood floors, it makes a lot of sense. But if you don't, then probably not. But
Yeah. We have wood
yeah.
floors. I just, until my one dog dies, I can't own anything like that. But
Oh boy, but listen,
basically you
when
wait
it's
though.
gone,
Yeah. When Cha Cha crosses the Rainbow Bridge, I'm gonna have 45 Roombas rolling around my house. Yeah.
then I can really live.
Yeah. I can eat off the floor once the dog leaves. Yeah.
Cha Cha's been holding, your house back for ages, but no
Yeah.
more.
My little Luddite dog. Damn you, Cha Cha.
So great. Just waiting,
Oh my goodness.
counting down the days.
Exactly. All right. Well, hey, it was a good show, good chat.
Yes, sir.
We thanks to everybody that was watching, listening, trudging your way through these conversations with us, talking about all the tech gear and things that deliver toilet paper to your door. We will have some shorts coming out soon, some cut downs and stuff like that on Instagram and TikTok, and the full episode should be on YouTube shortly. I'm looking forward to our next chat. Hopefully next week we'll get together
As
and crank out
always.
another one. Yeah,
Yes,
for
sir.
sure. So
Thank you guys for watching. Always cool to talk, Rich.
Yep, sounds good, and we will see you guys soon. Later on.
Peace.